Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. This is going to be my Spider-Man Homecoming villain for all the deep cuts villains that they're going to include from the comics. So here we go. So most of you probably know that this is largely going to be a high school franchise, Harry Potter style. We're going to follow Peter Parker through his sophomore, junior, and senior years of high school. So the Homecoming title is very appropriate for a number of different reasons. Largely because he's come home to Marvel in the cinematic universe, but also because Homecoming is a big idea in the context of high school itself. So one of the other big things that they've done as they bring Spider-Man home is take the series all the way back to the beginning of the Spider-Man comics. And when you hear about some of the villains that they're doing, it'll totally make sense. So one, we know about Vulture being in the movie. He was one of the earliest big Spider-Man villains, but some of the other people in the movie are way deeper cuts. Like Jacob Batalon, the actor who's playing one of Peter Parker's friends in high school. He appeared in classroom scenes with Peter Parker in the Comic-Con trailer. His name is Ned Leeds, and most of you, when you hear that name, Ned Leeds, your ears will prick up a little bit and you go like, wait a minute, Peter's friend in high school is Hobgoblin? Ned Leeds was Hobgoblin in the comics. So huge deep cut. Obviously this high school kid is probably not going to turn into Hobgoblin during this movie, but you can see how they're seeding the universe and going way back to the earliest Spider-Man comics. And it also seems like based on some of the stuff that Bokeem Woodbine was doing in the trailer, like he and a couple other people were robbing a store, it seems like they're doing the Enforcers, which was one of the earliest villain team-ups in the Spider-Man comics. So if you haven't read a lot of the earliest Spider-Man, Steve Ditko Spider-Man stories, a lot of the stories were written like crime thrillers, so naturally mobsters played a big role in that. The Enforcers were just kind of like an earlier proto version of the Sinister Six made up of mobsters. So like the Enforcers debut, then much later in like the first big Spider-Man annual, they have a big villain team up that becomes the Sinister Six. So it's like in the Batman comics, like you meet the Joker, you meet these other characters, but Batman's mostly fighting mobsters, it's a lot of crime drama, but eventually the Batman comics work up to Injustice Society, big Justice League level stories. So it's kind of the same thing with the Spider-Man comics. Even like the Christopher Nolan Batman movies did this too, where Batman faces mobsters first, then he works his way up to crazy supervillains. So it seems like there's going to be some of that going on during Spider-Man Homecoming. So they're invoking a lot of the classic comics, and they're giving you a nice balance of street-level villains for Spider-Man to fight, as well as like the really big comic book deep cuts like Vulture. So here is where it really gets crazy. If you guys aren't excited for Spider-Man already, think about it this way. The Enforcers are a team of hired goons, essentially. They get hired by other super criminals in the universe, namely Norman Osborn. And I know a lot of you were like, hey, how come Vulture's the big villain of the movie? Why isn't Green Goblin the villain of the movie? Well, they said that in doing this new Spider-Man trilogy, and it will be a trilogy if that wasn't clear. I know they've only announced Spider-Man Homecoming. There will totally be a trilogy. They said that in doing Spider-Man again, because of all the stuff that's happened, all the drama behind the scenes, they just want to start fresh and do something with the character that's never been done on screen, and that involves doing villains that they have not done in the comics yet. So that's why a lot of the characters, the villains, the friends will be a little bit different than the ones that you've seen in previous Spider-Man movies. So the other big question that everyone has is because Spider-Man is street level in New York, he's an Avenger, so he's kind of a combination of like the big Avengers level characters, like the big A-list superheroes that you see in the movies all the time, and the street level heroes that you see in the Netflix shows. So wouldn't it make sense that Spider-Man would bump into the Defenders at some point? Well, we know that Kingpin is one of the big crime bosses of New York. He's going to get out of prison soon. He has been connected to the Enforcers, like I said, who are going to be villains in the Spider-Man movie. We've seen them show up in the Daredevil comics, so a lot of the lesser characters that you see in the Spider-Man movie are shared Daredevil characters. So there's your connection to the Netflix shows right there. Like Kingpin, big Spider-Man villain, but also one of the big bads of the Daredevil Netflix universe. So while I'm not expecting to see Tom Holland appear in Defenders or any of those shows, I think that you'll see a lot of Ant-Man style references to a guy that wears a red costume and crawls up walls. Because the easy joke to make, and I've heard rumors that there's a joke about this, about people confusing Daredevil with Spider-Man. Like, oh, thank you for saving me, Daredevil, and Spider-Man's like, that's not me, that's another guy. Or vice versa, with Daredevil being like, I'm not the guy that crawls the walls, I'm a totally different guy. So here's my big question for you guys. Given that we're seeing a lot of shared Daredevil Spider-Man villains in the Spider-Man movie, how do you want to see those two characters cross over eventually? I know a lot of people want to see the Netflix people in Avengers Infinity War. That hasn't been confirmed yet. Robert Downey Jr.'s Facebook account posted this picture, but the problem with that is that it's fan-made because you see all these Defenders characters appear on here, and right now they're shooting Defenders in New York City, and they're working on Avengers Infinity War in Atlanta. And this is the old logo. They've already changed the titles of both of these Infinity War movies. So a lot of you this morning were just asking me about this. And what happens is that Robert Downey Jr. doesn't operate his Facebook account. So when you see him posting stuff, that's not Robert Downey Jr. posting things. It's his intern posting things. So just keep that in mind whenever you're wondering, whether or not an actor is posting something spoilery for one of the movies. But Spider-Man stuff, I know everybody's gonna walk away from this video being like, well, wait a minute. If Norman Osborn hires the Enforcers, they're in the first movie, does that mean we're going to see Green Goblin in the second movie or the third movie? And if Hobgoblin is his friend in high school, does that mean we're going to see Hobgoblin in the movies too? I think there are a number of things that could totally end up happening. A lot of it just depends on the creative decisions that they make down the road. So like Kevin Feige and all the people that are working on these films, they're laying groundwork, they're planting seeds for a whole bunch of stuff that might grow into actual stories. But as is the case with any big movie, like even Captain America Civil War, there are a number of different things that could happen just depending on stuff behind the scenes, actors' contracts, things that might not work out. Like they originally had a different plan for Captain America Civil War if they were not going to be able to use Spider-Man, but the deal worked out, so they were able to use the story that they wanted to do, but they had a number of different plans depending on whether or not that worked out. So it's the same deal with the rest of the Spider-Man movies, with all the movies in general, even Infinity War, the really, really big stuff. So let me know in the comments, how long do you think it's going to be before we see Daredevil and Spider-Man on screen together, and how long before we see Wolverine and Spider-Man on screen together? One of those will definitely happen before the others. But in case you guys didn't know, there's a new round of the Marvel giveaway this week. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave a comment on this video. It's just a $20 Amazon gift card. So let me know in the comments if there's any Marvel videos that you guys want me to do in the next couple days. Later tonight, I'm going to be working on a new big, Flash, Supergirl, Justice League TV crossover video. They put, Stephen Amell just dropped this picture, and you can't tell from the sound of my voice, but I was making the Deadpool gasp face, oh my god, it's happening. But it's a little early in the year, so I'll explain when I post that video tonight. So Flash Season 3, Supergirl Season 2, all that stuff coming tonight. While you guys wait for that video to post, you can click here to learn all about the Iron Spider suit in Spider-Man Homecoming, the Stark Tech suit, and you can click here for all my Suicide Squad movie Easter eggs. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. Let's high five. I'll see you guys tonight.